Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some I Don't Work Here Lady stories, and our first story of the day is by Fade653. I don't work there, but I do work here. Super long story time. So I'm a security contractor, read guard, and I'm basically an on-call 24/7 officer with on-site shifts 5 days a week in charge of a shopping plaza of about 20 odd stores. I'm good at my job, but I'm very aware of where my authority ends, at the door of every business. I handle the plaza as a whole and am in charge of all the exteriors of the building and parking lot areas. I will occasionally be asked to spook someone, keep a lookout, or back up a manager at a shop, but they are fully aware that if I did anything, it'd be as a private citizen because while I'm in their store, I am a customer. That being said, I do go into the shops to shop. And for the most part, I'm talking with employees, joking around, grabbing food, and getting out. If stopped and asked, I usually will lend a hand, but again, I don't work there. Lastly, I only have 3 people who can override my authority on the post: my 2 direct bosses and the property manager. All 3 love me because, again, I'm good at my job. We all have a "the truth shall set you free" kind of understanding of how any complaints go, and my word is above reproach in their eyes. I have stories about those complaints, rare as they are. Karen is a regular, but she doesn't bother me anymore. And here is her story. It starts off with me going into the grocery store in my post. As I'm walking down one of the aisles, an elderly lady stops me to ask if I could grab an item off the top shelf for her. No big deal, I'm 6'3", but I'm a friendly giant to her 4 foot and shrinking self. I obliged and move on my merry way, and then I hear snapping behind me. I don't like that, ever. Karen is snapping her fingers at me and shouting down the aisle at me like a dog, but she might have a genuine complaint about something in my area, so let me see what she wants. Nope.
It's about time. I have been waiting here for 10 minutes. Now I can't find any of brand dog food. Go to the back and get me some.
I don't work here. I cannot go in the back and do anything for you. Look for someone in a green polo. I'm in a gray and black security uniform, pretty standard.
Oh, BS, you just helped her. You can help me.
Even if I wanted to help you, which I don't, I'm not able to because I don't work here. I walk away as she is exploding in obscenities at me. Whatever, I pay for my items and go sit in my vehicle on my job site. Karen comes out onto my site fuming about 15 minutes later. Learned after the fact that she had gone up to the grocery store manager and complained about me, to which he just shrugged and said he doesn't work for us, he's a customer. Karen stands by her vehicle and opens a whole bag of bread freshly bought and starts throwing it in clumps on the ground. I get out of my vehicle and approach Karen as she is now my problem. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to stop littering.
F you, I'm feeding the ducks.
Okay, ma'am, I'm going to ask you to stop feeding the ducks and leave the property.
F you, you FNSOB. What are you going to do about it? You don't work here.
No, ma'am, I don't work for shop name. I work for the property that they rent from, the part you're standing on, the part you're currently littering on, the part that if you don't leave, I'll be forced to take the next legal action available to me. Now it's your choice, you can go or you can stay, but what happens next is on you. Karen continues tirade. I say, okay, your call. I call the locals. They show up, I tell them what's up. Karen goes nuclear level Karen, gets told to leave or risk fines and trespassing, etc., etc. They don't want to deal with her either. I'm not pressing for anything, just to have her gone. I'm leaning against my car just watching. Officer comes back from running her ID, instant handcuffs. Apparently someone skipped a court date and had a bench warrant. Oops. Good job, Karen. She gets hauled off to jail. And later that evening, her car gets towed for leaving it on the property overnight. Not me, another company. My final interaction with Karen happened a few days later. I'm on site, another day, another dollar. I spot 3 or 4 women huddled over something, so I go to investigate. A baby bird fell out of a nest. I offer to take care of it and scoop it up into my hand, and it cuddles into my beard. 3 soccer moms clap and coo cause it's kinda cute. 4 looks me dead in the eye and says, "You're that a-hole." Her cohorts turn to me and I smile and say, Yes, ma'am, I certainly am. And walk away with new bird friend. Karen has never bothered me again. Imagine being this Karen's friends, and they see the security guard walk up and a baby bird crawls into their beard, and it's like the most adorable scene you've ever seen in your life. And your friend goes, "This is that a-hole that got me in trouble and is so awful and just a total jerk and whatnot." It would be a little hard to just kind of dump on that guy, wouldn't it? So let me ask you, do you think this Karen deserved to experience that trip to jail? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by CrtrIsMyDood. Your headlights are blinding me. I get to work at about 6 a.m. every day. I don't start till 6:50, but I like to mentally prepare myself for the shenanigans of the day. As I'm sitting in my car with my headlights off because I'm not an inconsiderate tick, a BMW pulls in next to me. This in itself is not surprising as we literally build them here. I don't really pay any attention until someone knocks very hard on my passenger window. I roll my window down and the guy rudely says, "Your headlights are blinding me. If you don't turn them off, I'm going to call your section manager." Now, normally, I'd just politely correct him and go about my business. But today, I was feeling particularly snippy, so I decided to at least get a laugh out of it. I responded, "My headlights? Huh." I then got out of my car and walked around to the front of my car to look at my clearly off headlights. When I got in front of the car, I mockingly made it seem like I was being blinded by the headlights. I said, "Darn, these things sure are bright. Sorry about that, man." This guy was absolutely shocked that my headlights were actually off. He just mumbled something and then walked to the guy next to me. Apparently further on, OP explained that there was probably another car somewhere in that parking lot that had their lights on, and for some reason this guy pulled up and probably saw OP's nice BMW car and assumed that this is the jerk with the bright lights on and whatnot, and just kind of pounced on them without making sure that OP was actually the one responsible for the lights. Which in itself is a foolish act and pretty clear that they were assuming stereotypes. Our next story is by MaewintheLascerator. The employee is coming from inside the house. This is an old story from my first year of college. In my dorm, we all had landlines. So long ago. To get an outside line on the phone, you had to dial 9. If you didn't, your call went to another extension in the dorm. My roommate had the misfortune to have the number you got if you failed to dial 9 and then tried to call pizza delivery. Multiple times a night, she had to tell people they had the wrong number. One night, she was sick of it and just took the guy's order. Then she took a pizza box, we had a few around since it was college, and went to his room. She knocked on the door, dropped the box, and walked away. Inside the empty box, she had written, "You need to dial 9 to get an outside line." Well, it rhymes, so maybe they'll be able to remember it a little bit better. I mean, you can make a little jingle out of that. It's good for memorizing things. Our next story is by maryrosetudor. Wrong state, man. This happened just a few minutes ago with my mom. She was in the kitchen making cake when her phone rang. She goes to answer it and the conversation goes like this. Mom says, "Hello? Hey, is this some restaurant in Boston?" "No." "Are you sure? I got your number here. I want to order." "Hold it there, buddy. I live in LA." "Are you sure?" "Pretty sure. I haven't lived in Boston since I was 6 months old." "You from Boston?" "Well, I was born there." "Well, since you're from Boston, can you call some restaurant Boston?" "No, I have to make a cake now." "But you're from Boston." "And I don't care. Goodbye." She hung up and is still making the cake, and I am still laughing about the man talking about it. I don't understand how the conversation goes past, "Hey, is this some restaurant in Boston?" "No, I live in LA." How does it go beyond that? It's clearly like a very wrong number. This next story is by Mundane Button 818. I don't work here. I'd bought an all-singing, all-dancing printer, but there was a problem. Next day, I took it back. While the man was looking at it, I told him it was blocked with paper. I hadn't used it yet. As I waited for the printer to be sorted, I browsed at the camera part of the shop. I noticed the camera was not under its label, so, being a person who always puts things in the right place, it amazed me people just don't look where they put things they have looked at in the right place. So I moved cameras around and got them under their labels. Into the shop walks a bottle blonde who tapped me on my shoulder. Bottle blonde will be BB. Me will, of course, be me, and staff will be S. Bear in mind, I was not in any way dressed like a staff member. The BB picked up a top-of-the-range camera.
Are there any of these cameras in the back?
I say, pardon? I don't know.
What do you mean? There must be more. I want to buy one.
Oh, I don't work here. I'm just waiting for my printer to be sorted.
Well, find out for me.
I'm lost at this point. Didn't she hear me, or is she dumb? See those two people behind the counter with black and blue shirts? Ask one of them, they work here.
You're very rude. I'm going to report your rudeness.
At this, she walked to the counter.
Why can't polite employees be employed here? That woman was very rude to me. I'm on holiday and don't expect rudeness from employees like her.
The young employee looked at me, looked at her. Madam, she doesn't work here.
That's no excuse for her rudeness. Why is she moving cameras around if she doesn't work here?
I told you I was waiting for my printer to be sorted, madam. I was just putting cameras in the right places. The employee I handed the printer to came back into the shop. I'm sorry, you should have not have been sold this printer. Would you like a new one? Yes, please, I would. BB cut me off.
That woman was very rude to me. I demand to be served first.
I'm not good at confrontation, so I went and sat on a seat and let her get what she wanted. The employee came to me and quietly said, "Don't worry, we get people like her in all the time. I'll bring your new printer out." I thanked him, he picked up the large box, he was about to carry it to my car.
Why hasn't she paid for this?
The nice young man didn't answer her. I didn't say anything either and just walked to my car. BB wasn't too bright, was she? You just get a total sense of entitlement and cluelessness. It's just not fun to be around. Our next story is by TheAdmiralofAckbar. Everyone is wearing these shirts. So to start off, a little backstory. I worked at my local university in the stadiums during sporting events, but during football, I got to take a 1-hour break and make some money parking cars behind a house my family rents to students. This story takes place while I was walking from the football stadium to the house. Needless to say, this isn't a recent story. Also, obligatory mobile and sausage thumb warnings. Cast: CL is the crazy lady and our antagonist. CN is crazy neighbor. He's not a bad guy, he's just really weird and actually helps out in the situation. Me is the poor sap just trying to earn $1 so I can have some fun while I'm in college. Anyway, on to the main event. I had just finished the last of my setup duties at my stadium job when I went to start parking cars. I needed a little cash to give us change, so I stopped at a convenience store that's on my way, which hosts a major tailgate party as it's right next to the stadium. When I was leaving, I decided to take a small shortcut behind a laundromat to shave a few seconds off of my time. And as I rounded the corner, there she was in her silver Nissan Altima. Crazy lady. She started blaring her horn at me and I just about jumped out of my skin because I was only about 2 feet in front of her car. She rolled down her window and before she could say anything, I asked if I could help her with something in a more than mildly annoyed voice.
I need you to move some of these cars. I have laundry I need to do and I need a parking space.
I said the famous words that this subreddit is known for. I don't actually work here, ma'am.
Yes, you do. Why would you be wearing that if you didn't?
Note, I'm wearing blue jeans, a university branded shirt, and a university baseball hat. There is nothing particularly special about my uniform, and the only way to tell I work in the stadium is by my radio and badge, neither of which I was wearing. Ma'am, look around. Everyone is wearing university gear. Now I have to go because I have things to do. She says something unintelligible and starts blaring her horn again as I walk the half block to the house and grab my parking sign. About 15 minutes later, I see a very familiar looking car pull up rather aggressively and the crazy lady gets out and starts yelling at me that I'm a good-for-nothing employee and should be fired from my job for being completely incompetent. Just as I'm about to lay into her, crazy neighbor comes up and puts her on blast. "Hey you, you're blocking the road. I got cars I gotta park and they can't get around you to come in. So get your heap out of the way or I'm calling the cops."
And who the heck do you think
I'm calling the cops. Crazy neighbor proceeds to whip out his antique flip phone and starts to dial. At this point, crazy lady hops back in her car and takes off again, almost hitting several of the cars parked along the road. I thanked crazy neighbor for stepping in like that because it could have been a long drawn-out argument otherwise. And we got back to parking cars on our respective lots. I never did see crazy lady again after that, and I don't particularly care that I haven't. I guess sometimes it helps to have crazy neighbors, I suppose. At least in this situation, it did. But guessing how OP wrote about them, I'm guessing the track record is full of blemishes besides this. And our final story of the day is by S99B88, Working Hard or Hardly Working. This was a few years back. It's not the usual I don't work here lady story. Also on mobile in case formatting is bad. I was early 20s at the time. I'm female and lived in a sketchy part of town on a busy street. I'm doing some gardening in my tiny front lawn. My neighbor, who was always dressed in heels, lots of makeup, tight clothes, and fancy hairdo, comes over to talk to me. I'm dressed like I'm doing yard work and I'm leaning on my rake while talking to her. A car pulls up slowly and stops in front of the house. Now, there's a traffic light that I can't see because of the position of the house next door, and it's common for cars to have to stop there, so I think nothing of this. The driver then rolls down his window, smiles, and asks, "Are you ladies working?" My take is that this guy is friendly, joking around because I am leaning on my rake and my neighbor is clearly not dressed for gardening. Basically, I think that it's like that working hard or hardly working line from Shrek. In fun, I reply, "Oh yeah, working hard, haha." But as I'm saying this, my neighbor starts screaming at this guy, saying, "You're disgusting, get out of here, you pig." The guy quickly drives away, which I barely notice as I stare at my neighbor with my jaw hanging. This girl can be a bit extreme, so it's not that unusual for her to go off on someone, but it is weird for her to do this to a stranger and to escalate so quickly. As this is running through my brain, she turns to me and says, "Can you believe he thought we were prostitutes?" Oh, I see. Call me naive. Would have liked to have a do-over so I could change my answer to no, we most certainly are not working. On looking back, I wonder how he thought someone leaning on a rake, probably with dirt on me and dressed in my gardening clothes, was working, but then again, I never got asked that when I was alone. Well, at least it tells you OP is a nice person, they just thought it was some friendly banter. And it also tells you that guy had a pretty dirty mind and pretty dirty intentions. It's actually probably a good thing that the neighbor was there to scream at them and scare them off. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So, which of these stories was your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing and turn notifications on if you haven't so you'll never miss an upcoming video. Any little thing that you do helps the channel grow so much more. Whether it's commenting, subscribing, or just watching the video, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time, right here on the Storytime channel.